Welcome to the 10th annual Rockstar Energy Drink US Open. This is the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Thanks for checking us out here on USSX.com. Jason Weigandt, Jim Holley. Now, normally we have the faces for radio. We are, of course, the Supercross Live webcast gang, but we're going to give you a little preview of what's in store for the Rockstar Energy US Open tonight. Jim, our webcast starts at 7 p.m. and all the buzz is, of course, about James Stewart, who was not expected to race in this event. Almost out of nowhere, suddenly he's a surprise entry.
Well, and also the surprise about it is he's running the #1 plate. I mean,
yeah.
James Stewart's got the #1 plate out there. He looked good, had a little bit of a bobble that first practice. It was a little bit wet, you know, and probably not unsure of himself, but comes back that second go-around out there in the time practice, lays down a 43.8. Chad Reed was second fastest in that practice, and he had a 44.3. So already James Stewart back on top.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he took much time off the way he was riding, but it was kind of interesting. We do a lot of interviews with the riders, and you'll get to hear those once our webcast begins at 7 p.m. Pacific. And when we talked to James this afternoon, he did not expect to win this race. He knows he is not quite at 100% after that knee injury.
Well, and that's what I asked him, because if you remember last year, he almost came away with that trifecta. If Wyndham hadn't had that fastest lap, Wyndham, stole that away from him. That's a lot of money. I asked him, I said, hey, you're going to go out there and you're going to try to set fast lap tonight, Friday night, and you're going to try to get that whole shot and win the main. He goes, you know what, Jim? I'm just going to go out there and have fun, and let's see what happens, because it's been a long time since he's been in a race. You got to go all the way back to Washougal at the National. That was in July. So these guys have been racing hard all throughout the whole summer, and he's just going to come out here and have fun, he said. I talked to Mike Fisher and all the guys at Cowie. They said, look, you know what? This is something that we're going to use to build for Supercross, but if we don't win it, it's not a big deal.
Now, you alluded to that trifecta. That's something they started last year, and it's back in effecta. You have the Toyota Super Pole, and basically that's a hot lap. The top 10 fastest riders in practice each get a shot to set the fastest lap time before we even go racing. If you're able to get the fastest lap and get the whole shot in the main and win the main, you win $50,000. If you manage to do that all again tomorrow night, Saturday night, then you get the big bonus. That's $150,000 for getting all the trifecta, throwing another 100 grand for winning the overall of the event. $250,000 on the line.
Well, and the thing that I like about it also is if you don't get all that, like you said, you still can come away with the fast lap and get $10,000.
Right.
If you get the whole shot, you get $5,000. And if you win the main event, that's a $35,000 bonus. So, I mean, you look at that, I'm going, hey, you know what? I might not be able to do it, but there's a lot of money out on the line. I mean, I'm thinking maybe I ought to suit up. I think I could, I definitely couldn't go fast for one lap, but I think I could get the whole shot maybe. That's $5 grand. I mean, think about it. Supercross, what is it? 1,500 bucks.
Right. Well, you know what, Jim? If you did want to race here, they have the perfect format for it. We have the Alpine Stars Championship rematch. We're bringing in the 3 retired former kings of this event, and they're going to have a 5-lap race. 5 laps all they got in them, but they're still going to race for 5 laps.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the guys, the only guy that's on the same bike that he won the event is Mike LaRocco on a Honda. You got to remember that when Huffman won it, the inaugural race here in '98, he was on a Kawasaki. He's back here in '08 on a Suzuki.
Right.
Emig won it the next year on a Yamaha, and now he's on a Kawasaki. Right. But the interesting thing about LaRocco is he's on a 2-stroke. Yeah. He's the only rider out here on a 2-stroke. He thinks, you know what? I'm not quite in shape. I don't want to wrestle around a big 450. And those other guys, Emig and Huffman, they got works bikes. Yeah. I mean, these guys got full-blown works bikes. So I'm looking forward to that race. I think it'll be interesting. And like I said, I've talked to all those guys, and they said, well, it's just a fun race. We're all out to have fun, but all these guys have kids and everything now, and they're not serious about the racing, but as soon as that gate drops, that's all out the door. I know they're going to be slamming on each other out there tonight.
Yeah, it sure sounds good having LaRocco in the 2-stroke. He said that's one of the main reasons he wrote it, just because he figured it would sound cool for the fans. Now, one other thing to throw into the mix here, 1 class, 1 champion, 1 main event, and that could really spoil things. The 250Fs and the 450s raced together this year. Well,
one of the guys that looked really good out there was Daniel Reardon. In his practice, he actually had the fastest time out of his session there, and that was over Josh Demuth on a 450. A couple of the other guys, Jake Weimer, he looks good on his, and Justin Brayton on the new factory KTM for MDK, he looked fast on his F. But I think the 450 is still going to have a little bit of an advantage because we do have quite a long straightaway. If you remember years past here, sometimes they go across the stadium, it's a little shorter. We're going the long way across the stadium, so I think the 450s are going to have a little bit more of an advantage. But when we head outside, I think the lights guys are going to have a little bit more of an advantage because it's real tight back there.
It's really going to be interesting putting those bikes on the same track at the same time. It all kicks off again for our webcast, our pre-race show at 7 p.m. Pacific time. That's pretty darn late if you're out east, but hey, have a good time. Yeah, have a good time, and then when you're done having a good time, come back and listen to us. That's when it all starts. Jim Holley and Jason Weigandt, we're pumped up. It's the 10th annual Rockstar Energy Drink U.S. Open from Las Vegas.